I've been actively involved in the board game industry as an independent board game designer for the past 8 years. And over that time, I have learned some truths about this industry that I'm going to share with you in this video. The first one is that in the board game community, there is a culture of extreme consumerism and FOMO, or fear of missing out. Let's start with the extreme consumerism. Now, I understand that as a designer, I am creating a product that I want a consumer to buy. But it's more than that. I see myself as someone creating experiences where friends, families, and strangers can connect with each other, learn about each other, and create memories. One of the most amazing things about being a designer is seeing photos of people playing one of my games with big smiles on their faces. It truly brings me so much joy and really is the reason I create games in the first place. But there is an interesting dynamic in the board game community, where people will post photos of piles of games that they bought at conventions and share their hauls online for others to see. I find this phenomenon fascinating. These haul pics have become an inevitable occurrence after every major board game convention. And I never want to judge or put down something that someone else enjoys. But I do challenge the purpose of these photos and the culture of celebrating extreme acts of consumerism. Now, I will share photos of a game that I bought that I'm excited to play, but to share a photo of massive piles of games, it almost becomes more about flexing the fact that someone bought so many games rather than the excitement of actually playing all of those games. I remember a time where I was buying a lot of games, and I had to stop and ask myself, why am I buying so many games? Am I playing all of them, or are they just gathering dust on the shelf? Is it more about sharing photos online about my growing board game collection? Or is it about actually playing those games and creating memories with other people? I reflected on this and I realized that the main reason I was buying so many games was that I was trying to get my partner at the time as interested in board games as I was. I remember thinking, maybe this will be the game where my partner will start to love board games as much as I do and will want to play more board games with me. So essentially, I was hoping that by buying more games, I would become closer with my partner and be able to play more games. Unfortunately, that just never happened. He just didn't like playing board games as much as I did. And when I realized that, I decided I needed to stop buying more games in an attempt to try to change that. And understanding that buying more games does not necessarily correlate with playing more games. I also realized I definitely got the shopper's high whenever I bought a new game. It was exciting, but when I thought about what was exciting about it, it was the thought about being able to play this game with others. But then the game would just end up sitting on my shelf. So I asked myself, what do I want? Well, I wanted to play more games. And that does not necessarily mean buying more games. So I looked for board game meetup groups near me and started to go to those. And I've played so many games through these groups. I've also started playing more games online on Tabletopia. I actually stream on Friday nights if you want to join me. And that joy that I was looking for when buying games, I found in actually playing games. So I've now capped myself at around 50 board games in my collection. I have one long shelf for games and that's it. If I want to buy another game, one from my collection has to go. Shifting the focus away from the act of buying games to actually playing games has been a healthy change for me. So I challenge other gamers to just ask, why do I want to buy this game? Is the act of buying it possibly filling some sort of void or emptiness inside?
With an armful of discount clothing, I realized I could no longer discount my feelings.
Or will I actually play it with others and create those special moments and memories? Or will I play it solo and truly enjoy myself? Which is absolutely possible. I'm a huge puzzler. I love puzzles. And puzzles are essentially a solo game. They can be done with others, but I have just as much fun doing a puzzle solo as I do with friends. And there are some great games that play well with only one player. If you are getting those games out and having a great night playing a solo game, that is fantastic. And I also acknowledge that some people are collectors. And just knowing that they own certain things brings them a lot of joy. And they don't necessarily need to play all their games to feel good and happy about it. So at the end of the day, as long as we are truly happy with how we are spending our money, then that's all that matters. But I think we need to ask ourselves, why are we buying these games, and will spending my money in this way truly make me happy? Now for the FOMO part of this. It really is amazing that it is the consumers that are driving the extreme consumerism and FOMO in this industry. I am sure that the board game companies love how much people post online of their hauls and photos of the latest board game release that they waited in line for hours to acquire. Many people will spend a lot of money to attend board game conventions simply because they feel they don't want to miss out. They want to be included and belong. They'll see photos of people having so much fun at these cons and think,
I want to be that happy and have that much fun.
So they spend hundreds and possibly thousands of dollars to go to a convention that is usually based around spending more money on games. I definitely feel the pull to attend more conventions because I see so many of my friends going and I'll see their photos online and be sad that I missed out. Now, conventions truly can be so much fun, and being around so many other nerds and gamers is a cool atmosphere. But I just want to emphasize that you are part of the board game community whether or not you attend these events. And I don't want anyone to feel bad if they can't afford to go or can't attend for health reasons or family responsibilities and so on. Because at its core, this industry feeds off of people wanting to feel included. So I think we should question that and really ask ourselves, why are we spending our money in this way, and does it truly bring me joy and connection with others? Now, my next truths will be focused more on designers specifically rather than gamers in general. So my second truth might seem somewhat contradictory to my first, but it is designers kind of need to go to cons to meet and build relationships with publishers. It is definitely possible to get your game published without attending conventions. There are online speed pitch opportunities and more online events where you can meet with publishers. But there is something about meeting someone in person that is more impactful than meeting over video. This is unfortunate as, like I've mentioned, attending conventions can be very expensive and many people aren't able to attend. So this one is an unfortunate truth. It is much easier to make connections with publishers in person at conventions. When I look back at my games, they were almost all picked up at conventions. 2 were picked up at a playtesting convention I used to run called Proto-TO. One connection I made with a publisher at the New York Toy Fair turned into them picking up one of my games. And I'm currently working with a publisher I met at Gen Con this past summer about possibly publishing another one of my games. Now, Blob Party was picked up from an online speed pitch event, so it's definitely possible. But like I said, going to certain conventions to meet publishers in person will make your journey as a designer much easier. The conventions that I recommend attending if you're a designer and want to network and meet publishers are Gen Con, which happens in early August in Indiana, New York Toy Fair, which used to take place in February but has now moved to the end of September, and Origins, which happens in June in Columbus, Ohio. Now, there are ways to attend these events without breaking the bank. You can work at a booth, which usually includes a free badge to attend the con and possibly accommodation. If you are able to schedule meetings with publishers in advance, that is ideal. Some publishers will post their booking schedule online for anyone to book with them. Others will only share that link with designers they already know. If you aren't able to book meetings in advance, I would definitely recommend introducing yourself at the publisher's booth. Write out a list of publishers you want to meet who you think would be interested in the types of games that you make. I would then find their booth and say,
Hi, my name is Pam. I'm a board game designer, and I was wondering if I could speak with someone from your inventor relations team.
This is usually what I say. Some companies don't use the term inventor relations, but most do. And that will usually get you talking to the right person. Once you're speaking with the person who takes pitches for the company, you can say,
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a board game designer, and I'm currently working on some games that I think you might be interested in. If you have some time now, I can quickly pitch them to you, or we could schedule a meeting to chat about them later.
I know this can be a very uncomfortable and scary thing to do, but putting yourself out there like this will absolutely increase your chances of getting a game published. The third truth is that things move very slowly in this industry. Publishers in general take a long time to reply to emails and to make a decision of whether or not they want to move forward with your game. If they decide they do want to move forward with your game, first of all, congratulations. But just know that you won't be able to hold the finished game in your hands for at least a year, if not 2 or more. Because first of all, there are the contract negotiations. The publisher will send you a contract outlining that you, the licensor, will be licensing your game to the company, the licensee. You aren't selling the game idea to them, you will always own that. You are licensing the game idea to them. And once the contract period ends, or if it's terminated, you will get the rights back to the game and can then pitch the game to other publishers, or self-publish, or just leave it. You will review the contract the publisher sends you, and you might want to have a lawyer look over it as well, and there will be some back and forth until it gets to a place where you're comfortable signing it. Once the contract is signed, the publisher will then do their publisher thing, which includes handling the art, graphic design, manufacturing, shipping, and distribution. This all takes a very long time. Some publishers will include you or keep you updated in this process, and some will go completely silent during this time. Once your game comes out and starts getting stocked in stores, you will start to earn royalties. You should have received an advance when you signed the contract. Now any royalties you earn, which are usually about 5% on the wholesale price, so the price the publisher sells the game to distributors, who then sell the game to retailers, will go against the advance that you already received. If the game sells enough for you to recoup that advance, then you will start to receive royalty checks, which are usually sent out every quarter, so 4 times a year, or every 6 months. So you likely won't get a royalty check until 1.5 or 2 or more years after you sign the initial contract. Speaking of contracts, let's move on to truth number 4. Signing a contract does not guarantee that your game will be made. The publisher can decide to terminate the contract at any time. So I never believe that one of my games will actually be made until I'm physically holding the product in my hands. This is why a cash advance is a non-negotiable for me. So if the publisher decides to end the contract, at least I walk away with something. Thankfully, this has not happened to me, but several of my friends have signed contracts with publishers who then ultimately decided to terminate the contract. There was one publisher who said they wanted to publish one of my games, but would take months to respond to my emails or not respond at all. And they would make excuses as to why they hadn't sent the contract yet. Finally, after 2 years of trying to get an official contract from them, I asked them to return my prototype to me as I'm no longer interested in moving forward with them. They didn't respond to that email either, but my prototype eventually was delivered back to me. Now, let's say your game does get published. The 5th truth is that your game's success relies heavily on the marketing efforts from the publisher. If the publisher decides to put their money and marketing behind other games besides yours, your game will quickly fade into the background. We don't know about some of the best games that have ever existed simply because they weren't promoted. The marketing and promotion of a game is possibly the most important determinant of whether or not a game will be successful. So when you are negotiating your licensing contract with the publisher, be sure to ask them about their marketing plan and try to get that included in the contract. But a big factor in all of this is that publishers can't always guarantee that your game will be stocked at specific stores. Most publishers have to pitch their games to big retailers like Walmart, Target, and Barnes & Noble, and it's up to them if they want to stock the game or not. And not all publishers even have access to be able to pitch to these big retailers. But if you can get the publisher to outline which retailers they will pitch your game to in your contract, that will be a big help. It is then ultimately up to these big stores if they want to stock your game, and that could be decided merely on the look of the game box. It is unfortunate, but those big retailers possibly have the most power of anyone in the entire chain. But let's say you get several games published. Again, congratulations. The 6th truth is that even if a designer gets multiple games published, they will most likely still need a day job. When I got the call from Hasbro in 2016 that they wanted to publish one of my games, I immediately started drafting my resignation letter for my day job. I imagined the commercials that Hasbro would make for my game, I imagined it being stocked at all of the major stores, and I imagined it selling millions of copies. Unfortunately, none of those things happened. I can't go into specific details, but I was absolutely nowhere near being able to quit my day job. Then when I got another game picked up, I thought maybe this would be it. But again, I was not earning anywhere close to enough to be able to quit my day job. Then my 3rd game just came out this past summer, but I still have to wait another 4 months before getting my first royalty check. That's assuming I'm able to recoup my advance. So I'm sorry to say this, but it is very, very difficult to earn enough money to support yourself as an independent board game designer. It is not impossible though. I made a whole video about different ways you can design games full-time, so be sure to check that out. And there is definitely the possibility of making significant amounts of money as an independent board game designer. You just need to make a great game and sign with a publisher who will promote it and pitch it to big retailers who will pick it up. So you need to have a few things line up, but it is possible. Well, I hope this video wasn't too much of a bummer. That wasn't my intention. These are just some things that I've noticed and reflected on for the past 8 years in the industry. And hopefully they've made you reflect on some things too and maybe see things a bit differently. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. I also just launched memberships. So if you click on the join button below, you can join as a member for as little as 99 cents a month. All members get access to a monthly members only live stream. They get first access to play games with me on stream on Fridays. discount codes on merch, and shoutouts in videos like this. Thank you so much to the first members of my membership program, Travis Bouchette and Kristen Salindas. Thank you so much. So thanks again for watching. Be sure to follow me on social media at Pamela's Game Design, and I'll see you in the next video.